So what exactly is an event? It could be Aunt Maud's needlepoint exhibit down at the local library, or it could be 2,000 people lined up in a town center ready to run a half marathon. Could be something like this. Now, my event was a concert series, and I've run that for 30 years. And in that time, I kind of made myself the crash test dummy to see how many mistakes you could make, what could go right, what could go wrong, and making a lot of happy accidents along the way. I can say that every good development that happened was mostly just a sheer lucky guess. So I encourage everybody to try different stuff. Now, the first thing that we did is early on in the concert series, at about the 5-year mark, things start out great, and then they kind of level off, and they just kind of go flat, kind of the same old, same old. So I thought we needed a little boost in attendance, a little boost in interest. So I went to a local ice cream maker, and he does great boutique ice cream. Had him make some cool custom flavors that would attract attention. One of them was Halloween Dumpster, which was the first concert after Halloween. That was great. And attendance did fly up. It was a really great way to get some things going there. But something happened with the ice cream that we did not intend, and that was part of our happy accident. First of all, people came and ate the ice cream. That was wonderful. But then they also stayed and talked and talked and talked some more. And what they were talking about was all sorts of things. First, they'd talk to the band, and the band would sell more CDs than they'd ever sold before, so they were thrilled. But they were also talking to themselves, and people who'd been coming to the concerts for years finally met people and actually discussed and realized what they did. So they were making professional connections. They were making academic connections. People were finding jobs, changing careers, all sorts of things. And then, of course, we also had people who were, finding the love of their lives and getting married and having kids and going off, all because of ice cream. The other thing that happened, too, was that families would now bring their kids. They could bribe the kids with the ice cream. If you sit here and behave, we'll actually let you eat the ice cream. So they'd bring the kids to the ice cream, and they'd be sitting out there, and I'd look out there the first time they came and realize that all these kids were really short and really antsy, and they couldn't see over the parents or anything like that. So we invited them all up right to the front of the stage. I mean, they could literally reach out and touch some of these musicians, and some of these musicians are Grammy winners. It's not like they were little local guys. And so the audience has got this noisy group of kids up front. We tried to keep them quiet, but it didn't matter too much. It was still great. The musicians loved it. Concerts went on, and we were hoping that inspire the kids. And inspire the kids, it actually did, because a bunch of them went on to careers in music. We never expected that. Some went into production, some to the professional side of things. And we actually even got a couple of touring musicians out there right now that were a result of this. It was so much fun that we actually started a fiddle club, which we called the Skunk Misery Ramblers. And that's an old Southern tradition, and at any rate, to use a place name and add the word Ramblers after it. So we were the Skunk Misery Ramblers, and the artists before every concert would come and give a workshop and teach the kids not only tunes or techniques, but also some of the culture from where they came from, Wales, Ireland, all parts of the world. They got so good that a lot of them started going, as I say, into profession, but we also went on tour to like nursing homes, assisted living facilities where the audiences are captive, fortunately, library programs, some outdoor festivals, all sorts of cool things like that. So they were getting performance experience as well. And even those that didn't go into the professional world, I think they all enjoyed putting on their college resumes as they were sending out the applications that they were a founding member of the Skunk Misery Ramblers. We know for a fact that made a difference because at one point, one of the convocations, the university president comes and reads, here's what your new class coming in is all about. And he goes on and says, some of you from Samoa, we've got somebody from Japan, we've got somebody from here, and we actually have a Skunk Misery Rambler. So it actually worked somehow, and that was Stanford, so a pretty good university. You become a skunk, you'll go places. So opportunities offered all because of ice cream are pretty remarkable. We just loved it. But opportunities also fell in our lap also, which was kind of surprising. There was a local land trust and then obviously a local farmer. And the farmer always had done these farm-to-table dinners. And she wanted to take these farm-to-table dinners and put them in the land trust property to help raise money for the land trust. That was a cool idea. They needed a little something to kind of juice their program up. So they contacted me about getting some music down there. So we hauled a flatbed into the field, middle of the field, hauled all the sound equipment out, the generator, everything, grabbed these musicians, threw them on the flatbed. They were a little skeptical at first, but the whole thing went amazingly well. The food was great. The scenery was unbelievably beautiful. The music was great. But we realized the reason it worked is because there were 3 separate organizations coming together and offering some opportunities that never would have existed otherwise. So we had attendees coming from the concert series, we had attendees coming from the land trust and from the farmer. So our work was actually easier. We were able to get more people with less work. And because there were so many volunteers from the various organizations there, nobody had to work that hard. It was enough of a changing, thing to us, kind of an earth-shattering moment, that we slowly tapered down the indoor concerts and went solely with the outdoor things and moved around to different land trusts. And then, of course, the virus hit and everything shut down. There were no concerts, there was no this, there was no nothing. Except for us, because we were outdoors at that point. So we were able to do stuff. And in fact, just a couple of months after the shutdown, we had our first outdoor concert. We could only keep it to 75 people. We had to keep people socially distanced, of course. But it was a remarkable effect because now, for the first time in several months, a band was actually able to make a little bit of income, and that was a lifeline to them. It was as much of a lifeline to the people who came and attended because they were, for the first time, able to get out of their houses and see people. It was a huge mental health break. They could talk, you're talking arm's length and everything, but still, they hadn't seen people in months. So we just did a lot of them that summer, and then for every summer thereafter, we started actually adding little things like guided hikes before the thing. We added beekeeping. We added also little nature-oriented educational programs. And then we realized all of a sudden that was changing people's lives too. We had people like the one couple who's now over 70 are hiking all over the country. And before they'd actually gone on a hike at one of our concerts, they'd never, ever hiked before. So music might have been the focus of the event, but the reach was completely different. And that's all because we were bringing in lots of different people. Now, the mistakes part of thing is always kind of fun to go over because some are totally disastrous and some, of course, you learn from. My favorite one, we had this one extraordinarily gifted Grammy-winning artist, really well-known. Before every show, basically, I'd get up, I'd introduce as eloquently as I could the person standing next to me, and then I'd signal to the back where a volunteer would be back there ready to flick the lights on and off and raise the spotlights up and turn the house lights down, all that good stuff. They were sick that day, so I thought, okay, here's what I'll do. Introduce them, then I'll just run back as fast as I can and do the light thing and everything will be great. So, introduce them, being a little bit nervous, I just sort of ran off to my corner there and sat in my little seat way in the back and forgot about the lights. So I sat there and watched the whole show with the lights on, thinking, oh my gosh. So at the end of the show, I kind of groveled. I'm like, yeah, okay. And he's rushing back to see me, and I'm like, this is going to be horrible. And he goes, your having the lights on is genius. We could see all the audience members. We could have we had conversations. I was talking to people. We were having a great time. We weren't up here overheating. We could actually play comfortably without too much heat, too much light. It was the best thing ever. That's the best idea ever. I'm so glad you did that. So, yeah. But I admitted that it was indeed a mistake, and we had a little laugh, and that was the end of that. But we never did turn the lights down after that because we realized that face-to-face communication is what does create opportunities and is so very important. Now, one mistake that didn't go too well, and I would highly recommend you don't follow this, is early on in the series, we didn't have any money. We didn't want to spend any money. So we had a bunch of kind of lame sound equipment that friends and I had cobbled together. Part A, part B, let's just hope this works. And it kind of worked for a few years, and then the bands got better and better. And finally, at one point, the sound system was overwhelmed, and right in the middle of the show, it just stopped working. Right mid-song, the guy's like, what happened? Well, we know what happened. But at any rate, he was such an accomplished acoustic musician, and along with his band, they just said, well, let's just keep playing. And they played, and the audience kind of leaned in and listened, and it ended up being a really lovely night. But I knew darn well that could never happen again, because then I would start losing people. So I had to go out and spend the money and do the sound system right, and since then it's been great. So that's a lesson for anybody trying to do anything like that. There's going to be one single element, kind of a crux element, that's going to make or break your event, and just get that right. It could be the location you're going to have. It could be the caterer. It could be a sound system or a timing system if it's a run. It could be a really good porta potty. You don't know, but get that right. The other thing that I kind of botched through the years was advertising and kind of getting people to come out. Newspaper print used to be really great for us. We would give really cool, press releases and photographs and everything. And the local newspapers really did a great job helping us out and printing those all the time. And would buy an ad every now and then as a way to say thanks, but the ads are extraordinarily expensive, and you can't really, afford to do that all the time. So as print advertising went down and we weren't getting the same press releases, we had to find other alternatives. Now, one thing like social media has been there all the time, and we had a nice supplement with that. Like I was originally one of the kings of MySpace, and of course, that's not working so well anymore. Even Facebook, I did really well, and I had this great demographic curve. If you know the bell curve of, great demographics, starts low, right up big in the middle, and then down. And through the years, I didn't pay a lot of attention, but every now and then I'd look, and it's like creeping this way, and this way, and this way. And finally, at the very end, I'm a hit with people 75 years old and up. And you can't run a business that way or a concert series or anything. Now, there are other social media avenues which are great, I think, but I've never been able to figure out how to use Instagram, and all 6 of my followers seem to agree. I can't even figure out how to not watch a TikTok dance video. Now, you'd think that's a disaster, but fortunately, because through the years we've developed a lot of extra people in there, like with the land trust things, we've had families come in. I just gave my social media account to a 13-year-old, and it's running perfectly ever since. So make sure you get the right volunteers in your group. That's really critical. There's still nothing better than word of mouth, though. That's by far and away the best way to go. And of course, that all comes back to having lots of different people come into the fold and try to be, part of your system. So you're not just trying to do everything on your own. But the more elements you bring in, the more opportunities you open up for everyone else. So outside of that, there's really not much more you can say about running an event. You really have to try to create those opportunities for as many people as possible, and that's where the magic really happens. So to that end, I don't know about you, but I've developed a method of personal philosophy that's based on whatever the Instagram meme is I see that morning. And I live my life that way for that day. And one that I thought was particularly appropriate that's probably going to hold true for another couple of hours, and I hope it works for you too, is if you think your idea is really crazy, just remember that at one point, somebody sat down in a meeting and said, let's put sharks in a tornado and make a movie. Thank you very much.